welcome back to my channel, The Space Koala. My name is Luta, and today I'm here with a new telescope, the Askar SQA55 flat field Petzval telescope from Askar. This little thing is fully designed for astrophotography, but it is also meant to be a fully functional photography lens. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it is. Let's put it to the test for real. Let's start with a quick tour of the SQA55. 55 because the aperture is 55 millimeters. Let's have a look at all the features. It comes in this waterproof travel case, so you can really travel with it. It is very sturdy, but otherwise nothing special about that. And then the telescope itself is much more interesting. It has an aperture of 55 millimeters with a focal length of 264 millimeters, which makes it an f4.8 system. It is a Petzval system, which means that the whole group of lenses is traveling together as you're focusing, which means that you don't really have to pay attention to the back focus when you're putting a camera on, because as long as you have focus, the back focus will be correct and the field will be flat. But now let's have a look at what makes it more interesting. This cap that is on the lens doesn't look anything like a regular telescope lens cap. This looks like what you would have on a lens for your camera. And then you have a dew shield that, of course, comes off, and you can just install it. It clicks on. And then it comes with this handlebar that also doubles as a Vixen shoe holder, so you can put your guide scope or your ASI Air or mini PC there. What is interesting about it is that this actually comes off with a quick mounting mechanism. They have multiple of these mechanisms that I'll demonstrate. So it's essentially you can rotate this part, which unlocks it, and then you lift up the central black part and it slides right out. And then you have multiple places where you can mount this on. I'm not sure why you would mount it anywhere else but the top, but you have the option. And then just as quick as you took it off, you can put it back on. You just slide it in and tighten it with the twisty part. The bottom features a Vixen style dovetail, which you can also remove just as easily because, as mentioned, this is meant to be also a fully functional photography lens, which means with 264 millimeters of focal length, you probably want to use it on a tripod. So to put it on a tripod, you have standard 1/4 inch mounting plates for your Arca Swiss mounting solution of your choice. But this is actually quite easy to do because you don't need any tools to switch it. It already comes with this little thumb screw and it slides right off. And there you have 2 screws where you can put your Arca Swiss style mounting solution of your choice. And also this part is identical to the handlebar we saw before, so loosening it and then lifting up the black part, this comes off. I think the only reason this might be useful is because if you remove both of these, then this lens without the lens hood here is extremely compact, which means that for traveling it is really easy to fit it into pretty much any bag. And then you can slide it back on, it clicks in, you tighten it, you slide the dovetail back on, and you screw this back. Normally, I would be a bit worried about a solution where there is only a single screw holding a dovetail, but with the fact that they made this like rail mechanism where you have to slide it on, that is already keeping it quite secure. So this is really just to secure it even more. It is not moving at all. What makes it truly unique, at least to me, this is something that I had never thought of as a photography lens, is that it comes with an actual set of diaphragms. So you have an adjusting ring for the diaphragms, and you can physically step it down like a photography lens because it is a photography lens. And I will try to take a close-up of this. It is so satisfying to see that because it is so smooth and it seems to work so well. And also, while you have the stops printed on here, you actually have many more stops than the numbers that are printed on, so you can really customize the amount of light and the depth of field that you want to have in your photography. Obviously, this is useful for daytime photography. You would never step it down from 4.8 in nighttime photography. Now you see that in addition to this ring that is for the diaphragm, we have two more rings, and that is because it comes with a dual focusing system. I will remove this so that it's better visible. We have the rough focusing ring, where you really move from infinity to, I think, like 2 meters. I will try out in a second how it works with the camera. And then when you found your infinity focus for the stars, if you want to get those really, really precise pinpoint stars, you have a micro focuser, and that is this ring here. Now you see that twisting this, the lens practically is not moving because it is so smooth and the movements are so small. So you probably don't see it on there, but we will try it out on the stars later. Both of these focusing rings can be locked down. That is fantastic for astrophotography because once you have focused on the stars, you want to make sure that it stays there all night. And then the other features that it has, we have two more things. First is this little button that says tube ring, and that is because you can actually unlock this and rotate the entire tube within the tube ring. But then also you have a rotator for the camera. So if you unlock this one, then you can rotate your camera quite smoothly, and then you also have the degrees printed on there. So if you know by how much you would like to turn your camera, then that helps with that. Now, the reason I was quite intrigued about this little scope was the claim that it's meant to be a RedCat killer. And that is because I have a RedCat 51 telescope. I've had this for quite a few years, and I used to use this quite a lot. And that was up to 2 years ago when I upgraded my Astro camera to a full frame one and tried to use it. And there was just way too much vignetting, and also in the corners the stars were just not nice. So it kind of has been sitting on the shelf, which is a shame, but I just didn't have a reason to use it. So then when it was claimed that this one is meant to be much better and fully corrected to 44 millimeters, I said, okay, it might be an actual alternative that would make me consider using one of these scopes again for my wide field shots. If we compare the two telescopes, in terms of specs, they are quite similar. This is 51 millimeters, this is 55 millimeters. I mean, that is slightly bigger, which is better, but that's not what's gonna make you decide for one or the other. In terms of price, they are quite similar. Then they're both a Petzval system, so the optic design is the same. But then in terms of other features, there are significant differences. Like I said, the price is similar, but for example, this handlebar with the cute cat that comes with it, it doesn't actually come with it. I had to buy that separately. I don't know if this is still the case. It was the case when I bought it 4 years ago. Whereas the Askar already includes the handlebar. So, I mean, that is something you need anyway. So you have to factor that in the cost. They're both fully manual and they both have helical focusers. However, the RedCat has a single speed helical focuser, whereas the Askar has the double speed helical focuser that I already demonstrated. Obviously, a huge difference is that the RedCat doesn't have the diaphragm, so this is a fixed f4.9 versus this an f4.8 to 22. It makes it much more of a photography lens. Then the solution for it being mounted on a regular tripod is quite different because the RedCat comes with this double dovetail plate, so you need like a hex key to undo this and then mount it upside down. And then you have the Arca Swiss plate versus, as I said, this one, while you don't need a screwdriver, you do need an extra Arca Swiss plate to mount on it. The other features are quite similar. They both have the rotator, they both can be rotated in the tube ring, so there is not that much left to talk about. Let's put the Askar to the test and let's see how it actually compares both to the RedCat and, more importantly, how it actually performs on a full frame camera. Before going under the stars, while I'm not too big on daytime photography, I might as well try out what it can do. I will just mount my mirrorless camera on it. This is also a full frame camera. While it feels nice, I will definitely be needing a tripod to try this out. And now the closest focus mentioned on the focusing ring is about 5 meters. So I am about 5 meters away from that shelf with a few telescopes, and this is infinity focus. And I will see, yes, we're almost there. And yes, we do have focus. And just to give you an idea of the fine focusing ring, I will do the zoom in feature of my camera and gently adjust the focus. Now I have pointed it to the movie theater, that building down there, and let's see how sharp it can get at a much further away object. This is very much overexposed. I will zoom in to the writing at the top of the building, and I will use the smooth manual focus ring. That is really about as sharp as it can humanly get. Just for reference, what we're looking at is there. So it is nighttime. I am out with both telescopes, the SQA55 and the RedCat 51. I'm shooting the same target with both of them, M45, and I'm using the same exact sensor for both of them, that is the IMX571 color. I thought that was the absolute most fair and unbiased way of comparing them to shoot the same target from the same place at the exact same time. And then we'll see. So these are APS-C sensors, but at the beginning of the night, I shot a couple of full frame images with both of them. So I'll show you how those are as well later on. Okay, I've downloaded all the images to the computer, and I am quite a bit under shock. I will not say a lot, I will just show you. It's crazy. So in my mind, I already had my little assumptions or preliminary opinions of what I was expecting, and based on my previous experience with the RedCat and with other Askar telescopes, I thought that the Askar would outperform the RedCat on the full frame, and I was not expecting a lot of difference on the APS-C sensor, but I was so wrong. First of all, let's have a look at the single color images coming from both telescopes. So this is the Askar and this is the RedCat. Zooming into the picture, you don't really see that much of a difference in the center. I wasn't expecting to see a lot of difference, but what I was surprised about was that here the stars look perfectly fine in the corner, whereas on the RedCat, if you really zoom into the corners, even on the sides, you start seeing some distorted stars, some sort of a coma. Anyway, you see that the stars are not round, whereas on the Askar, they are reasonably round all around. Even if I zoom in a bit more into the very corner, you don't see them, you don't see any stars that are not perfectly round, at least on the single image. It was surprising because I was under the impression that the RedCat was reasonably good up to an APS-C sensor. And then for the full frame test, unfortunately, I made a mistake because this is the image that I took of the full frame with the Askar. And unfortunately, if you zoom in, you see that I had tracking issues. I think I forgot to guide or something like that. So I can't really use this image. Whereas on the RedCat, I didn't have this issue. They're even if you look at the very faint stars, they're all round, whereas here they are lines. When I saw this, I thought this is not a reasonable picture to use. So then I went back out with the Askar and I shot another image with it, which is this one. It was later on in the night, so I picked another target that was in the same position in the sky. This is the center on the RedCat. They look quite similar. And then I check like a corner or just the edge here, for example. Here we start to see this kind of, I think, like coma-like aberration, especially in the corners. This is what I remembered from trying to use it with the full frame. And then on the Askar, these stars are not perfect, but these are stars that I would still deal with, versus this that would make me not want to use it. And then, oh, there's a satellite. If I check the top left, again, I probably have some tilt for sure. Regardless, the amount of aberration that can be seen on the full frame with these tiny pixels is very different. Bottom left on the RedCat. Oops, I have to zoom in more. Again, you can say they're not perfect, but I would be much happier with these stars versus these stars. So, I mean, that's it for the full frame comparison. And now let's have a look at the actual color images. This is where I was a little bit shocked. So let me open both of them. This is the Askar and this is the RedCat. So I was fully expecting to see that sort of difference in the corners after I saw the individual frames. And yeah, you can definitely see that these stars are not round, and you can especially see it on the brighter ones versus these that are completely point-like even in the corners. I did nothing to these images, by the way, so this is just as opened up from WBPP. This was not even shocking. What was, though, is I had a look at the very center of the images. I open the preview to the same size. And this is something I was not ready for. So this is the RedCat Askar. RedCat Askar. I mean, this whole time I was under the impression that the RedCat was creating very beautiful stars in the center of the image. And if you only look at the RedCat image without looking at anything else, you might see that there are a little bit of spikes and reflections here, but nothing special. But if you actually compare it to the Askar image, the difference is actually crazy. That is crazy. I mean, the amount of difference you have here will actually have not just aesthetic differences, but you will be able to resolve closer stars. You will be able to resolve better contrast and details. And then let's have a look at one more thing that I actually haven't checked yet, but I'm interested in, and that is how they both perform on colors. So I will move these little previews to the very corner of each image, and then I will just take these as separate images. I will apply a histogram transformation on both of them. I know that this is not beautiful, but that's not what we're trying to do here. Let me take the stars off. Now clearly we don't care about the actual colors of the stars because I didn't color calibrate the image, but what I do care about are the distribution of the colors. I will be opening up the curves transformation and apply a saturation boost, maybe 2 times on each of them. And let's have a look at this bright star. Now, we do see a tiny bit of separation between the blue and the red on the Askar, whereas we don't even see the separation of the red on the RedCat because the whole star is kind of all over the place. Let's see something moderately bright. Like here, we see the 2 sides of the star. We are in the corner, so there is a little bit of separation of the blue and the red, whereas I mean, these stars are just disintegrated. I am quite shocked about this because in my mind I had kind of this idea of what I would expect and also what I thought about one scope versus the other. But this test has really showed that the proof is in the pudding. Now, of course, the question, should you buy the Askar SQA55 telescope? Or should you buy the RedCat? It depends a little bit. If this will be your first telescope of this type and this is the type of scope you're looking for, I think, in my opinion, the Askar is a very clear choice because the cost is about the same. Now it depends on what store you're shopping at, but you get more features and more importantly, the optics are by far superior. So there is no question to me there. Now, what is a little bit more of a difficult question is, if you already have a RedCat 51, should you think about upgrading? And I think there it is not as clear of an answer as I thought, because what I had in mind before, based on my experiences in the past, I would have said, if you're using a sensor up to APS-C, the RedCat is fine. And it probably is, unless having the best possible star shape and optics is a priority to you, and in that case I would consider it. If you are happy with the type of stars that I showed you, if the convolution and blur exterminator are your friends, then I think that is fine. However, for purists that want better optics, the Askar is a winner here. I'm so happy that I did this because I never would have thought that I would find such a large difference in the performance of two seemingly very similar scopes. And at this point, I am 100% sure that I will be using the SQA55. I think the RedCat can go back on the shelf, which is really a shame because I find it really cute with the whole cat thing. But looking at these pictures, I cannot justify using that if I have a better option. I hope that you found this comparison as eye-opening as I have. If you have either one of these scopes or both of them, let me know if you have similar results. If you have a RedCat, let me know if you would consider upgrading, because I think at this point we can call it an upgrade, because if someone is interested in having a look at the actual raw files, let me know in the comments and I will try to find a way to share that with you. And until next time, I wish you clear skies.